Everything started with Zhou Ye's accidental acquisition of the power of the Creator God, giving different civilizations different entries. Zhou Ye created brilliant civilizations, punk civilizations, sorcerer civilizations, martial arts civilizations, and immortal cultivation civilizations. History begins with him, epics are witnessed by him, myths are created by him. He is one, he is also 10,000, he is an instant, he is also eternal. Keywords of the novel. My Genesis entry without pop-ups. Download the complete collection of my Genesis entry TXT, and read the latest chapters of my Genesis entry. Chapter 1. Genesis. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1 Genesis. The moonlit night is silent. The bright moon shines in the sky, and the sparse stars shimmer at a few o'clock. Soft moonlight shines through the window into the bedroom, like a thin veil. Zhou Ye sat at his desk, staring blankly at the wall in front of him. But it's not that you can't sleep or daydream in the middle of the night. In Zhou Ye's perspective, there is a line of words in front of him. Welcome back, Your Excellency the Creator, will you initiate Genesis? Did I come back? Zhou Ye murmured to himself. He is not a person from this time and space, or rather, he used to be. Now he has traveled back, carrying a certain mission. However, he couldn't remember, and the last memory seemed to be experiencing a war that swept across the universe. Now, there is only a little memory about Genesis. Genesis is the supreme authority with the power of creation. It can create one world after another and develop one civilization after another. The method of creation is to extract entries, assign them one by one, and create civilizations with different characteristics. Each entry has infinite potential and the ability to evolve and evolve. Although I can't remember exactly why I came back, there is a sense of urgency in my heart. Urge oneself to quickly become stronger and deduce more advanced civilizations for oneself to use. Extract entries. Confirm extraction. Consume 1000 source materials. At the moment when Zhou Ye gave the order, infinite information flowed in front of him, with each entry passing by. You can vaguely see exaggerated entries such as omniscient and omnipotent, supreme divinity, and pouring fruit for reason. Ding! Congratulations on extracting 8 fragmented entries, 1 1-star entry and 1 2-star entry. There are still 200 remaining source materials. Is your face so black? Zhou Ye felt speechless for a moment, although most of the infinite entries were useless broken ones. But he couldn't imagine drawing so many 8 at once. But he no longer has enough source material to continue extracting, which is all he has brought back to the source material. When Zhou Ye chose to check the other 2 entries, his face turned black and he felt even more unlucky. The 2 entries are Boiling Water Specialty and Shared Spirit. Playing. What is the use of this entry? What other cultural characteristics can a race with this entry have? A civilization that knows how to boil water and a civilization that is willing to share. But the only memory left in Zhou Ye's mind told him that each entry had infinite potential. Just to see if he can think of how to use it. But to be honest, Zhou Ye currently has no clue about this. But fortunately, he can shake people. On the Zhihu forum, many people will search for answers to questions or simply have fun, but one thing Zhou Ye can be certain of is that there are many people with big minds among them. And now, what I want is someone with big brains. Open your mind, if you have the ability to endow different civilizations and races with talents, but currently can only endow them with racial talents such as boiling water expertise and shared spirit, do you have the opportunity to develop into a higher civilization? P.S. It can develop towards extraordinary civilizations, and each race has infinite potential for talent. After editing his own question, Zhou Ye casually invited a bunch of people. Although it's already late at night, staying up late is the norm in today's era. I believe there are still many night owls looking for fun online. As expected, Zhou Ye soon received his first reply. Steam Magic Statue. Thank you, since it's just a brainstorming, I won't hesitate to say it. If it's a boiling water talent, in my opinion, this race's talent actually has great potential and the possibility of developing into a technological civilization. You should know that even if humans have developed to this point, the essence of energy applications is to some extent boiling water. If a civilization's racial talent is boiling water talent, it will quickly master flames. After all, flames are the most primitive heating method, and this civilization may pass through the primitive era very quickly. So if we extrapolate from now on, this race will soon transition to the steam age, but we cannot rule out the possibility of being limited by race talent and studying steam technology with determination. Supercritical boilers, ultra-supercritical boilers, may be a steampunk civilization. The steam magic statue is here to talk confidently, and combined with its name, it is estimated that it is a steampunk enthusiast. Otherwise, it wouldn't have given a possible path for the development of civilization so quickly combined with this entry. After discussing the possibility of civilization development, I also analyzed the limitations of steampunk civilization. Pretend to be in your own field and keep talking. It has to be said that this steam demon statue is really a talent, and according to his deduction, it is completely possible to develop such a civilization. Even the limitations of steampunk he mentioned can be solved by extraordinary power. Soon, Zhou Ye received another reply. End viewer. Thank you for inviting me. If we can develop towards a transcendent civilization, then I will not hesitate to brainstorm. Since my expertise in boiling water has been mentioned, let me talk about my thoughts on the spirit of sharing. If we are extrapolating towards the direction of maximum potential, can the spirit of sharing not be limited to the level of shared goods, but rather a higher level of shared knowledge? When all the knowledge of a civilization is gathered in one place, even after death, the soul will return to this place. Under the evolution of infinite time, it will become a collection of infinite knowledge. The virtual realm can also be called the Silver Sea or the Magic Web or something like that. The knowledge and spiritual aggregates created by countless individuals and countless years can distort the laws of reality. Isn't this the ability to use extraordinary means? Perhaps it can be called the warlock civilization. This brain hole is also very stunning. If there is no possibility of entry evolution, the potential of this civilization is far greater than that of the previous steampunk civilization. And this civilization will continue to strengthen over time. After all, it is a collective of knowledge, and the longer the time, the more knowledge accumulated, naturally the stronger it will be. In the following time, more and more people were attracted and came up with their own thoughts. Thank you for inviting me. I also have a brain teaser here. Thank you for the invitation. Zhou Ye looked at them one by one, but to be honest, there was no stunning imagination of the steam demon image or the final viewer. But many of them were extrapolated from the minds of these two great gods. Provided Zhou Ye with many ideas. So now, you can try to start creating. But which world should we first create? Is it steampunk or sorcerer civilization? The deduction process of the former may be much smoother, but it will not bring much benefit to oneself in the short term. But in the case of the warlock civilization, danger also comes with benefits. In Genesis, there is only one world prepared for oneself. If this creation fails to improve one's own abilities, subsequent creation plans will be hindered. After all, the creation entry, the world, also needs to be extracted by oneself. Once decided, let's first create the world of sorcerers. Are you sure to proceed with creation? Okay. Boom. Consciousness is elevated by a force, and vision begins to expand infinitely, appearing in a high-dimensional perspective in a void universe. The first appearance was a blazing primordial sun, followed by countless nebulae and meteorites condensing to form a blazing magma ball. This is the world that Zhou Ye currently possesses. Do you want to activate the Genesis flow open? At the moment when Zhou Ye ordered, the scene before him seemed to have been accelerated countless times. The hot magma ball began to solidify, the solid core began to appear, followed by the appearance of the ocean, the first bacteria hundreds of millions of years have passed in front of Zhou Ye. Cambrian, Ordovician, Silurian species appeared and became extinct under Zhou Ye's observation. He never stopped the flow of creation, allowing these lives to pass before his eyes and erase the traces of existence under the power of time. What Zhou Ye currently wants is a civilization created by humans. Until Zhou Ye observed the emergence of a group of apes evolving towards humans. The flow of Genesis has stopped. Has it finally stopped? Zhou Ye's high-dimensional observation perspective allowed him to also observe the existence of these organisms. At the moment these apes appeared, the flow of creation also stopped. The proportion control of time flow rate in the future cannot achieve such a time span spanning hundreds of millions of years in an instant. Give the entry spirit of sharing. Grant success. A group of primates who survived in the primitive world were endowed with the 2-star entry, shared spirit. If it's a 2-star entry, it already involves the level of extraordinary power. With guidance, one can become a world of sorcerers. But now, adjust the time flow rate to the highest flow rate. The time flow rate has been adjusted to a realistic day, and this world will last for 100 years. The scene in front of him quickly changed again, but in his high-dimensional perspective, every detail would not be missed. But Zhou Ye is currently unable to fully accept all information. Thousands of years of memory, if fully accepted, Zhou Ye may first experience a mental breakdown. I withdrew from this world first, and it happened to be late at night. When I woke up tomorrow morning, these apes may have developed a certain civilization. Newcomer's new book, Seeking Collection. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Where does the soul return? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. Where does the soul return? In the primitive world, there is a border between a plain and a forest. There are some small animals that can be easily captured on the plain, and edible plants and fruits grow in the forest. There is a large river nearby, with countless plump schools of fish at the bottom. This place is rich in resources and is where the hominid tribe resides and survives. Some simple thatched cottages have been built. Although they have abundant resources, the lives of these apes are not easy. These apes have developed a certain social structure and will continue to hunt together. If it were for the same period on Earth, with the cooperation of dozens of upright apes, it would still be possible to hunt some fierce beasts. Not to be threatened to the survival of the tribe. But this is not Earth. A brand new world, also experiencing prehistoric times. Those prehistoric beasts did not go extinct due to a meteorite. They are still evolving until the emergence of apes, and they still exist. These giant beasts have always existed, and their body structures have become increasingly sophisticated and their hunting abilities have become stronger as they evolve. But it did not develop advanced intelligence. The purpose of species evolution is not to evolve intelligence, but to better adapt to the environment for better reproduction. These giant beasts have developed and evolved to the present day, and can be said to be the overlords on the ground. Without more survival pressure, one naturally wouldn't want to evolve towards higher intelligence. Only these apes can fight against others, and there are huge beasts everywhere that can hunt and kill themselves. The smartest way to avoid evolution is to go the path of extinction. But now it seems that their current intelligence is not enough to enable them to survive well in this primitive world. In a thatched cottage, a young ape tightly grasps the hand of another slightly older ape man. My legs were torn apart, and there were still many bite marks on my body. I was bleeding profusely, and my eyes were blurred and erratic. Alan Brew, I'm going to die. Alambulu held the hand of the young ape man with tears in his eyes and remained silent. After I die, my soul will definitely return to its place of return and sleep with my ancestors, right? This is a legend from the tribe of apes, where the soul will return to its place of return after death and sleep with the souls of the ancestors of apes throughout history. Although it is a legend, it is actually a fear of death used to appease apes. But it is also a legend that helped these apes to some extent overcome their fear of death. Yes, I will definitely do it. Alambula's voice was deep, and he tightly grabbed his brother who was injured in the hunt. After hearing Alambur's affirmation, the young ape man seemed to let go of his last obsession and closed his eyes with a smile. Alambru felt the passing warmth and knew that his younger brother had died. Due to legend, the ape tribe has developed a certain funeral culture. They will bury the deceased people together and call it the place of slumber. Alambru personally buried his younger brother in the sleeping ground. At night, a place of deep sleep. At this moment, there is no one here, and apes attach great importance to death and do not come here casually on weekdays. Moreover, it is night, so naturally no one will appear. However, a sudden sound rang out from the silent slumber. Has there really been a slight spiritual magnetic field generated? Zhou Ye felt that a faint spiritual magnetic field had already formed in the sleeping place. He entered this primitive world at this moment and began to intervene in the development of civilization. If there were no external forces involved, it is feared that this civilization would not develop in the direction of extraordinary power. It will truly become a great benevolent civilization that enjoys sharing. In such a primitive world, it may not be long before extinction occurs. The sleeping place has long buried too many apes. The addition of entries creates a certain spiritual magnetic field here. Zhou Ye can perceive that there is a lot of information recorded in it. But if left unchecked like this, it may not be long before it dissipates. Consume 100 units of source material and strengthen the spiritual magnetic field here. Enhancement successful. Remaining source material units. 100. Suddenly, the spiritual magnetic field, which was originally floating and seemed to be blown away by the wind the next second, became extremely solid. The information recorded in it suddenly became clear and readable. Well, did you still record some useful knowledge? Reading the recorded knowledge, Zhou Ye believed that if these apes had mastered this knowledge, they would have no problem surviving in today's primitive world. At least it won't go extinct. The early guidance has ended, now let's take a look at the creation of these apes. A few days later, Alambru's face was haggard and he had many scars on his body. He walked to the resting place, in front of his brother's grave. Anlo, I'm afraid I'll go to the place where my soul returns soon to find you. Alambula muttered to himself, sharing the pain in his heart. The tribe is becoming less and less robust, and even young apes like him and his brother have to go hunting. My young brother was inexperienced and died from a fierce beast attack during a recent hunt. The number of easily captured wild beasts is decreasing, and there are often fierce beasts by the river, and winter is about to enter. Alambru's voice was getting lower and lower, and his mind seemed a bit dazed due to injury. Vaguely, it seemed that a figure could be seen. Uncle Leo. Alambru spoke with uncertainty. Uncle Leo has been dead for many years. When he was very young, Uncle Leo passed away and was buried in a place of deep sleep. This is the most powerful warrior of the ape tribe, with the strongest strength, speed, and skill among all the personnel. When he was alive, apes wouldn't be afraid of any powerful beasts. At that time, the ape tribe was not as embarrassed as it is now. Leo's phantom reached out his hand, and Alamburu also reached out his hand. At the moment of contact, the shadow of Leo dissipated. A wave of information flooded into Alambru's mind, and he opened his eyes wide, his face full of disbelief. This is. In an instant, his mind was filled with a lot of knowledge, hunting techniques, and attacking techniques. Even Uncle Leo's most magical combat skills from a high-dimensional perspective, Zhou Ye discovered that someone had come into contact with a spiritual magnetic field and gained knowledge from it. Is he the first person to come into contact with an ape? He's really a lucky guy. If you are the first person to come into contact with, you will gain some residual elemental breath. For individual potential, it has great benefits. A few days later, the hominid tribe held another hunt. Winter is approaching, we need to hurry up and prepare more food. That's why hunting is so urgent. Unfortunately, some large beasts with hibernation habits also think the same way. Run, run. It's a pretty bear. The wild bear, which had been preparing for winter, rushed in, and these weak upright apes could be its food for winter. Roar. With a roar, a foul-smelling wind blew. The crowd present no longer maintained their formation and fled in panic. If you maintain the hunting formation, you can still maneuver around a bit. A scattered escape like this would result in even more deaths. The bear is not only powerful, but also not slow in speed. If this continues, most people will die, being chased and bitten one by the wild bears. Just as everyone was in despair, a figure rushed forward and stopped in front of the wild bear. It's Alan Brew. At this moment, his skin turned red, his muscles were bulging, and he could clearly see the protruding blood vessels, emitting heat all over his body. The powerful momentum immediately deterred the barbarian bear. The more experienced ape recognized it. Is this Leo's madness? This is Leo's combat technique. In fact, Leo is a different species from the human ape tribe. Being able to control the secretion of adrenaline and unleash powerful forces in a short period of time. But this combat technique cannot be learned by other apes no matter what. I didn't expect it to reappear on Alan Brew today. One person and one bear are confronting each other, while the wild bears are circling around Alan Brew, trying to find a loophole to attack. At this moment, Alan Brew's senses suddenly increased several times, and the originally agile-looking bear's movements seemed incredibly slow. Roar. After all, the bear couldn't bear it anymore and rushed forward with a roar. Step forward, lift the stone spear, and puncture. Alan Brew's movements were seamless, looking very smooth, like an experienced warrior. Puff. It was very easy for the stone spear to bypass the bear's claws and pass through its throat. The wild bear stumbled and walked a few steps, and blood rushed out of its main artery. Within a few steps, it fell to the ground and couldn't get up. Alan Brew. Alan Brew. He killed the bear. After confirming that the wild bear was really killed by this young ape, a group of apes gathered around, shouting Alan Brew's name loudly. This is a milestone in history, the beginning of humanity's acquisition of extraordinary power. In later generations, this scene is recorded in the secret scriptures of the School of Life. In the ancient era, the embryonic form of the void realm emerged, and the main god of life learned from it. The oldest life technique was passed down, and humans gained extraordinary power without fear of beasts, newcomers and new books, seeking readers and masters to collect. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Entry Evolution. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3 Entry Evolution. This era has come to an end. Continuing to observe the development of the ape-man tribe, Zhou Ye was convinced that if there were no major disasters, the ape-man tribe would not be in danger of extinction. Adjust your perception and no longer fully accept the information observed. In this way, in Zhou Ye's perception, time accelerates again, and years of time blink in the blink of an eye. But overall information is still perceived by the industry. After Alan Brew, he told everyone the method of learning crazy techniques. Apes are more convinced of the legend of the place where their souls return, a strange energy that makes the spiritual magnetic field of the sleeping place even stronger. But later on, the apes learned the technique of madness and a group of combat skills, but they were not as strong as Alan Brew. As the first ape to come into contact with a spiritual magnetic field, it received a gift of residual elemental breath. The potential far exceeds that of other apes, and the progress speed is dozens of times faster than that of other apes. Thus, the heroes of the tribe were born. At first, he hunted wild animals, drove away giant beasts, and expanded the living space of the hominid tribe. As time goes by, he becomes stronger and wiser. It even taught other personnel how to use flames. His body grew taller and stronger, and every time he touched the spiritual magnetic field, he felt much stronger. Finally, one day, his spiritual strength broke through and he was able to see himself, every inch of his muscles, every inch of his bones. He also observed the hidden injuries left during the battle. What a powerful force! Alan Brew was delighted, but unfortunately, he was unable to teach such power. Perhaps after I die, with the help of the power of the place where my soul returns, can the people of my tribe learn. At this moment, Alan Brew is a young, passionate hero, aspiring to lead the tribe out of the threat of giant beasts. He began to use this power, internalize himself, and use his spiritual power to exercise his own strength. In each battle, his muscles were damaged and repaired, and his body became stronger and stronger. Like a humanoid beast. The gap between him and other apes is getting bigger and bigger. It seems that he is not the same species anymore. Gradually, he began to challenge the giant beasts, one after another falling under his stone spear. He himself has also become stronger in several battles. His strong spiritual power allows him to see himself within and guide him to accelerate the healing of his wounds. The strategy of using war to pay for war gradually eliminated Alanburu's opponents. I will challenge the Tyrannosaurus Rex behemoth, Alanbulu said to the people around him. Near the tribe, there is a group of Tyrannosaurus Rex beasts. Some excellent apes, although already possessing the ability to kill ordinary beasts. But for the strongest Tyrannosaurus monster, there is still no way to start. Standing at 7 meters tall and approaching 20 meters in length, the bite force is astonishing. Many warriors from the tribe were torn in two after encountering it. Perhaps the Tyrannosaurus Rex is not the tallest and largest monster, but it is definitely the strongest predator. Only oneself, the strongest existence in this ape tribe, has the ability to challenge Tyrannosaurus monsters. No one stood in their way, and after several years, everyone was very convinced of Alan Brew. For his strength, it is a blind admiration. If it were him, even a Tyrannosaurus Rex would be fine. Alan Brew set off, bringing only a few warriors from his tribe who were second only to him before leaving. Roar! Roaring and shaking the sky. Even from a great distance, one can hear the painful roar of the Tyrannosaurus Rex. Alanburu challenges not ordinary Tyrannosaurus Rex, but the king among the Tyrannosaurus Rex beasts. Compared to ordinary Tyrannosaurus Rex beasts, it has a larger body size and stronger strength. Only by killing it can we deter other monsters and prevent them from disturbing ordinary people at will. For a moment, trees collapsed, smoke and dust filled the sky, and ordinary beasts and giants in the forest were frightened and scattered. The kings of two ethnic groups are fighting each other. The sound of battle continued from morning until dusk. The voice of the Tyrannosaurus Rex monster king became increasingly weak, as if he was feeling a bit exhausted. In the process of evolution, apes have excellent endurance, and for apes like Alanburu who walk on extraordinary paths, it is even more terrifying. Finally, in the last helpless roar, the sound of battle returned to calmness. At dusk, Alanburu bathed in blood and dragged a terrifying monster forward. The dusk light shone on him, reflecting his muscular physique and appearing extraordinary in bravery. Several stone spears were inserted into the neck of the Tyrannosaurus Rex behemoth king, and even at this point, blood continued to flow out of his arteries. Alan Brew! Alan Brew! Everyone once again shouts for this great hero. He did it. Killed the powerful Tyrannosaurus Rex monster and drove its population away. From then on, they no longer fear the threat of giant beasts. Time passes. After experiencing the battle between Alanburu and the Tyrannosaurus Rex, the giant beasts in the forest plain were intimidated and left. The human ape tribe began to develop rapidly. They cut down forests to build houses, burned the wilderness, made the land fertile, and began to cultivate. With knowledge directly inherited from our ancestors, the new generation of apes has saved a lot of time. Starting from the existing foundation and becoming stronger. Some bizarre techniques have been developed, such as controlling muscles to compress wounds and stop bleeding. The physical fitness of the new generation of apes is also getting stronger, and many excellent individuals can now fight giant beasts alone. This can already be considered as starting to break through the life level. Observing this, Zhou Ye made a judgment. Human power has its limits, and no matter how much exercise is done, it is impossible to fight giant beasts. Therefore, only by breaking through the level of life and becoming stronger can there be a chance. Many individuals of these apes have actually broken through the life cycle. The strongest Alanburu, according to division, has reached the standard of third order, not only enhancing its combat power, but also extending its lifespan significantly. Other excellent individuals have barely reached a second level. However, I didn't expect any unexpected joy. Obtain derivative entries, Insider, 1-star entry. Entries can evolve, which is also one of the ways Zhou Ye obtained entries. When Alanburu's divine evolution allowed him to internalize himself, he also gained the entry for internalization. In fact, Alanburu's spiritual power has actually mutated, and ordinary people's spiritual power has broken through, but they cannot directly internalize themselves. According to Zhou Ye's speculation, this may be due to the gift of residual elemental atmosphere. Time flies by quickly, and the unrestricted apes begin to develop their own civilization. They created text and recorded their own history. They named themselves after the greatest heroes, calling their civilization the Alanbur civilization and themselves the Alanbur people. From then on, the original apes were considered to have made progress towards true humanity. When the older generation of Alambulu people died due to lifespan limitations, all the knowledge they had acquired during their lifetime returned to their place of return. This knowledge, which had been improved to an unknown extent during their lifetime, has been transformed into a racial heritage. The new generation of Alambulu people will continue to move forward on the basis of their predecessors. However, Alanburu himself is still young. He seems to have broken through some kind of bottleneck, with a significant increase in lifespan, far exceeding that of ordinary Alanbur people. Under the sedimentation of time, his spiritual power began to become stronger and stronger, becoming able to perceive the essence of his soul's return. After the death of Alambulu people, their souls will return to their place of return, and their knowledge during their lifetime will also be recorded in it. And with every entry of the soul, the place where the soul returns will also be a bit stronger. Alambulu could sense that the place where his soul returned now was several times stronger than it was at the beginning. The most obvious manifestation is that one needs to be close to the place of deep sleep in order to perceive the existence of the place where the soul returns and obtain knowledge from it. But now, as long as you fall asleep in the tribe, you can also come into contact with the place of your soul and learn the knowledge within it. At Alanburu's current level, his physical strength has reached its limit. Simply exercising the body is no longer enough to increase his strength. However, the growth of spiritual power has not slowed down. However, how can we enhance our spiritual power? Alambulu turned his gaze to the place where his soul returned, the power that made the Alambulu people rise. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Phantoms in History. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4 Phantoms in History. If you use spiritual power to explore the place of your soul's return, you can read clearer information. This is the conclusion drawn by Alanburu after his exploration. After the death of the Alambulu people, the knowledge from their lifetime will return to their place of origin for future generations to learn from. But limited to the knowledge itself. With the enhancement of the place of soul return, some deeper information has been excavated. When Alanburu's divine power enters, he can slightly feel some of the insights of his predecessors. What are the free spiritual powers contained in it? But before that, Alanburu could only see Rio's phantom. The reason for this is that other people's strength is too weak to leave their own mark in the place where their souls return. And Leo, as the only abnormal individual of the Alanburu people in so many years, broke through the hierarchy of life on his own. According to the classification of the Order of Extraordinary Systems, there is already a level of First Order. This can also be considered a genius. Unfortunately, it appeared too early. Or rather, Zhou Ye came too late. And the other deceased ancestors, because they were too weak, could not leave too deep marks. But now the place where the soul returns is no longer the early dissipated spiritual stance. It absorbs all the knowledge and soul of the Alanburu people, becoming stronger and stronger. Even the weakest Alambulo people can still absorb their souls and knowledge wherever they go. Originally, individuals were required to actively record their own information, but now it is the active absorption of the soul's return. The difficulty level naturally varies. The current place of return has been able to rediscover the images of the distant past. The knowledge of the place where the soul returns is actually recorded through spiritual power. In the process of continuous learning and absorption, it is actually constantly absorbing the spiritual power of internal detachment. During this process, spiritual strength continues to grow. Of course, the part that records the most fundamental source of knowledge will not be absorbed. Gradually, he became addicted to the process of constantly absorbing knowledge and gradually becoming stronger. However, currently, only Alanburu himself can achieve this step. After receiving the gift of residual elemental aura, he seemed to have a closer connection with the place of his soul than others. It seems that it has a certain degree of influence on the place of soul return and has certain authority. This is also the reason why Alanburu can enhance his mental power in this way. Perhaps there will be people in the future who can become stronger in my way, but there won't be too many of them. He has gained enlightenment. His enhanced spiritual power is actually a gift from his deceased ancestors. But the spiritual power that can be absorbed by the wandering soul is limited. If every Alambulo person could become stronger like themselves, the place of their soul might not be able to provide them. Unless a solution can be found, there cannot be too many occurrences of one's own existence. What if I can find a solution? This young and passionate hero's subconscious reaction is to support more members of his tribe to grow up. This idea guides the establishment of the virtual realm in future generations. But to achieve more, the first step is to make one's strength stronger. Without hesitation, he continued to learn the knowledge of the place where his soul returned. From combat skills to hunting skills, he keeps exploring forward, even the smallest knowledge is learned and absorbed by him. Everything recorded in the place of his soul's return appeared before him. Has there really been a slight spiritual magnetic field generated? Suddenly, Alanburu, who was lost in the place of his soul's return, suddenly heard a voice. In the record of the place where the soul returned, a figure appeared, speaking unknown words. Who is this? Is there anyone in ancient times who, besides Leo, has the strength to leave a record of their soul's return? This figure is wearing strange clothing, with very little body hair, and the language spoken is not the language of the Alanburu people. He had never seen such a presence in the tribe before, and observing the surrounding terrain, he was even more amazed. The familiar terrain, the newly dug soil, this is the tomb he personally dug for his younger brother. He thought it was a distant past, but now, it may not be far from him. Next, something shocking happened to Alanburu. I saw this strange person reciting a strange spell, and the once elusive and elusive place where their souls returned suddenly became solid. The information that was about to dissipate suddenly solidified. This is. Seeing the formation of the place where his soul returned with his own eyes, the doubts in his heart for many years were lifted. Although there aren't many people going to the sleeping place on weekdays, there are still people there. There has never been such a power as soul returning land before. He had also discussed with other members of his tribe, but ultimately did not come up with a solution. It can only be attributed to the untimely timing. I didn't expect it. Is this the true reason for the formation of the land of soul return? Moreover, this period of history is not very long. This mysterious existence was not until shortly after he buried his younger brother, which led to the formation of a place of return. Later on, it was only from it that I obtained the technique of Leo's madness. What spell is this? The place where the soul returns is born out of him. In addition to being shocked, he felt infinite fear in his heart. Growing up to this day, the Tyrannosaurus Rex monster that he was supposed to fight to the death is no longer his sole enemy. He has been able to protect every member of his tribe from the invasion of giant beasts. Apart from natural disasters, no creature can harm him. It is only now that I realize that my greatest reliance, the place where my soul returns, is actually created by humans. Everything about oneself can actually be said to be bestowed upon by others. Behind everything, there is a hidden mastermind behind everything. What is the great power of creating a place where souls return? And what is the purpose of such existence? We can't let others know about this matter. Maybe we should try to block this record. After discovering everything, Alanburu keenly sensed it. The belief of the Alanburi people today is the place where their souls return. They firmly believe that they can return here after death and continue to protect their descendants. But if they discover it, the truth is not so, everything they believe in is just artificially created. The only result is the collapse of faith. Alanburu could anticipate what the consequences of the collapse of faith would be. Nowadays, the talent of Alanbulu has just begun to develop, and letting them know the truth, at least not now. After Alanbulu decided to block this period of history, future generations can no longer explore the origin of the virtual realm. Later generations speculate that the establishment of the void realm may be related to the main deity of the life sect. In the secret scriptures of the School of Life, a vague record was only discovered. The various things in the virtual realm are mysterious and profound, and the beginning cannot be said much. Perhaps it is for future people to invest in their past lives. Gu Si's time sequence is mixed, and it is portrayed as a secret history of gods. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Spiral Up, Iterative Forward. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5 Spiral Up, Iterative Forward. With Alanburu's current mental strength and some authority over the place of his soul's return, he is able to block a certain amount of knowledge. He hid this image in the deepest part of the massive knowledge at the place of his soul's return. Without the same level of authority as him, it is impossible to obtain this knowledge. Of course, he couldn't explain the future clearly either. Perhaps in the future, there will be talented and dazzling individuals who can bypass the restrictions of authority and directly reach the deepest hidden secrets. If there really is such a talented person, Alanbulu will not stop him. At that time, the Alanbur civilization was already able to withstand the disaster brought about by the collapse of faith. At that time, exploring such a powerful existence was not necessarily a good thing. But now, it's too early. Even though it has been decades since he first gained power, Alanburu remains the passionate and selfless hero. What I am thinking in my heart is still the flourishing development of civilization. But what level have I reached now? Alanburu can feel his difference, his strong strength, and his long lifespan. Decades have passed, but he still hasn't aged and his physical functions are still at their peak. My former companions have aged or died due to the issue of lifespan. Nowadays, there are not many people of the same era left, and the younger generation growing up in the tribe is stronger than their predecessors in the past. But this is also because we continue to walk on the path that our predecessors have walked. By passing down knowledge from generation to generation, the Alanbur civilization will only become stronger and stronger. He has such confidence. However, the reason why I have a long lifespan is not just because my level of strength is stronger than others, there seem to be other reasons. Thinking of the illusion in history, he couldn't help but notice something. Perhaps there is also his influence on me, right? He shook his head and stopped pondering deeply on this matter. With his current strength, even if he discovers the truth, what can he do? He can only enhance his own strength as much as possible. With this in mind, he began to continue learning all the knowledge that the Alanbur people have developed to this day in his place of return. However, slowly, his increasing efficiency began to slow down. The wandering spiritual power is insufficient. The place where souls return is actually the gathering place of all the souls of the deceased Alanbur people, and the scattered free spiritual power in it is only some that dissipates during death. The soul itself is more used to carry the knowledge of its lifetime. Like the steaming mist on the water surface, the amount cannot be too much. Moreover, the Alanbulu people have only developed for a few decades. It is not easy to support Alanbru's growth to the current level. Although he was supported by the entire ethnic group, in reality, most of the members of the tribe were just ordinary people. The strength of the soul is really limited. But among the new generation of Alanbur people, there are many powerful warriors like him who have broken through their own life levels. If these people die, there may be a lot of free spiritual power that can be provided to the place where their souls return. Alanbru thought of it this way, but then shook his head. Monopolizing this great power is not my goal, on the contrary, what I want is to make more people stronger like me. Obtaining strength from the place of his soul's return is just his choice to better protect his clan members. Civilization spirals upwards and iterates forward. Alanbru is very clear. Civilization needs a pioneer. What he is doing now is only for future generations to explore further paths. After his death, all his knowledge will be left to future generations. Future generations will continue to move forward on the path he has discovered. Are we going to the next era node? From a high-dimensional perspective, Zhou Ye observed this step. The Alanbur civilization has taken its first step and is no longer concerned about the risk of extinction. The form of civilization may need to develop further. The population of the Alanbur civilization today has reached tens of thousands, and loose political structures like tribes cannot be sustained. The next stage of development may be the establishment of the country. Further reduce the precision of one's perception, making the feeling of time passing clearer. If the perception is set too high, it will actually record all the information. I entered into such a time flow myself. After unable to gain more power from the place of his soul, Alanbur began to focus on managing the tribe. In the past, the number of Alanbulu people was too small, and their management was not too chaotic. But now that there are tens of thousands of people, it is not feasible to constrain them further. He began to create laws and organize a group of law enforcement teams. Perhaps at the beginning, the law had many loopholes and was very rudimentary. But by extending the time and making several modifications, it can be considered perfect. Civilization is flourishing. Alanbru's management of the entire civilization gradually became cumbersome. He had to establish more organizations and enact more laws. When the population rose to hundreds of thousands, a country was established. The Kingdom of Alanbur. This is the first country established by this civilization. The oldest king felt that the world was disorderly, so he established a system of laws and principles, clearly defined the rules and regulations, and made the world orderly. As a result, the country became the oldest country. Alanbru's long-term protection of everyone has made his status sacred in everyone's hearts. They called Alanbru the king. This is not his intention, he does not want to elevate his status too high. But this is inevitable. With his current wisdom, he knows that such a result is inevitable. Moreover, there is currently no more suitable candidate besides myself. Apart from oneself, there is indeed no one with the ability and prestige to lead the entire country. In this way, Alanburu led everything as a king, and when the country's system was established, the cohesion was greatly enhanced. Time flies, and decades pass by. Another generation has passed away among the Alanbur people. But their king is still young. Although in today's kingdom, apart from Alanbur, the strongest warriors have surpassed the third level of health. However, with such an existence, the lifespan is still not as long as that of Alanblu. This great hero, the only king of the Alanbulu people, still maintains his body at its peak. The majestic and dignified palace of Alanbur. The entire royal palace is made of stone and was built by a group of powerful kingdom warriors themselves for the king. Tall stone pillars support the entire royal palace, covered in colorful reliefs made from knives and axes, with a rough yet beautiful style. The ground is covered with a layer of giant animal fur. This is the palace of Alanbur. At this moment, Alanbur leaned against the throne, his hands naturally hanging on his knees, listening to the warrior below. Under the throne, a group of tall and strong warriors knelt and worshipped. Without exception, there is a strong aura emanating from their bodies, and they are all powerful warriors who have broken through the third level of their life level. And these powerful warriors all knelt before the throne, begging their king. The great king of Alanbur, we, your people, request that you pass on the law of immortality. The strongest warrior of the kingdom, Jamonri, kowtowed heavily and made a dull sound. The soldiers behind also kowtowed heavily. Jamonri is no longer young, and his physical functions are starting to decline. Although his extraordinary third-level life level allows him to live much longer than an ordinary person, his progress in strength slowed down a long time ago. Simply honing his physical body and inheriting memories of his soul's return cannot further enhance his strength. It seems that the third order is the limit of pure physical strength. But their kings are different. He once tried to challenge Alanbur, but he couldn't even get close and was bounced away by his spiritual power. He knew that perhaps their king had another way to go. Alanbur is very gentle and rarely punishes his own citizens. Therefore, Jamonri had the courage to come and beg with a group of soldiers. Alanbur frowned and sighed, he had already anticipated this situation. However, his longevity seems to be not only due to his life level surpassing theirs, but also due to other reasons. The illusion from history flashed through my mind. But this fact cannot be expressed. After thinking about it, I had to speak like this. I don't have the method of longevity. The reason why I live so long is because I have broken through higher levels of life. Jamonri continued to kowtow without looking up, only saying in a deep voice. We haven't made any progress in a long time. Simply honing our bodies can no longer make us wait any further. Please pass on the method of breakthrough to the king. Alanbur sighed and explained the reason why he was able to continuously break through higher levels of life. Where the soul returns. However, over the years, there has never been a special individual like myself who can further strengthen by relying on the place where their souls return. Jemengli was shocked. As Wang said, no one present was able to do it. The hope was shattered, and his body suddenly hunched down, as if he had aged a few years. Alanbur couldn't bear it. He summoned all the wise men and warriors of the kingdom to study the place of their souls, hoping to come up with a method to further advance the world. However, at this moment, Alanbur did not expect that he had truly found a way, which was also a turning point in the entire Alanbur civilization. The oldest king couldn't bear the short lifespan of the world. He gathered the strength of the whole country to explore the future, and from then on, the Alanbur civilization completely unfolded into an extraordinary world. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. The Road Forward. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. The Road Forward. The entire kingdom began to operate, and millions of people praised the name of Alanbur. This great and compassionate king cannot bear for all beings to be trapped in a short-lived state, and must pave a way for them. Praise Alanbur. Wise men and warriors knelt outside the palace of King Alanbur, admiring them loudly. Alanbur actually had the idea of replicating his unique existence for a long time. At the moment, it's just an advance in time. Perhaps the Alanbur civilization is about to experience another major outbreak. He explained his research on the place of soul return over the years to everyone. I didn't mention it before, so I'm not stingy with this knowledge. Just busy with national affairs, and no one asked before. I originally planned that one day after my death, my soul would return to its place of return, and all the knowledge I explored during my lifetime would be learned by everyone. But now, it's a bit earlier, but it's also everyone's choice, so let's follow their own ideas. Alanbur explained to everyone the various secrets of the place where his soul returned. Firstly, after the death of all Alanburi people, their souls will return to their place of return, and every return of their souls will make the place of return stronger. Secondly, there is a large amount of wandering spiritual power in the place where the soul returns, which contains some knowledge and insights. After learning and absorbing, it can enhance spiritual power, which is also the main method for Alan Brew to become stronger. Thirdly, upon learning this knowledge, all wise men and warriors fell into contemplation for a moment. The method to become stronger is very simple, and the path forward is right in front of us. It is the ability to communicate with the place where the soul returns, enter it to learn knowledge, and absorb the wandering spiritual power. But this step blocked everyone. As is known, no one can achieve this except for Alan Brew. Although people nowadays are also places to communicate and learn knowledge, they are more focused on reading. Just like reading a book, the efficiency of learning has increased several times through the return of one's soul. Just as everyone was pondering, a voice rang out. I remember you once said, in ancient times, the place of the soul cannot allow everyone to communicate and learn knowledge anywhere, can you? The owner of the voice is a young man, handsome in appearance and tall in stature. This is Agriphen, the most outstanding genius in the kingdom after Alan Brew. In his early 20s, he had already surpassed the third level of his life level, and his talent was comparable to that of Alan Brew. Just like Alan Brew in the past, she was stunning, young, and passionate. Some people believe that he may be able to break through the fourth level, making him the most dazzling presence of the younger generation. So where the soul returns, with the investment of the soul, it is constantly becoming stronger. Agriphen looked at Alan Brew, who nodded in affirmation of his thoughts. In fact, I am now able to vaguely communicate with the place where my soul returns, achieving a stronger ability to absorb the wandering spirit of the place like a king. Unexpectedly, Griffin revealed a shocking secret. What, has a special existence like Wong been born again? Is this the secret that he can break through the third level at such a young age? Suddenly, everyone began to discuss, and below the throne, it became noisy. How can you prove it? Jamonri's voice rang out, and the noisy noise came to a halt. Everyone's gaze once again returned to Agriphen, along with Alan Blue's curious expression. It's very simple. Agriphen was very confident and pointed his hand forward. The bone and tooth accessory on Jamonri's waist suddenly broke free from the rope and flew out. It's spiritual power. Like Wong's spiritual power. Someone shouted loudly. Although not as strong as Alanburu, it can also prove the uniqueness of Egliphen. A special existence like Wong has been born again. A group of people suddenly became excited, perhaps it was hope. Since there are more exceptions, is there a possibility of replication? Do you have any methods to communicate and contact the place of return? Someone inquired. However, Agriphen shook her head with regret on her face. Unfortunately, it's not that I was born with it. Upon hearing these words, the hope that had just ignited among the crowd was suddenly extinguished. After circling around, I finally returned to the original problem. Just like Agriphen and Wang, who were already able to connect to the place of their souls, but with such qualifications, only two have been born over the years. Along with Alanburu's expression of regret, he indeed wanted to make his people stronger. I thought I had found a solution, but I didn't expect it to be another exception. But it's not without hope. With a change of tone, Agriphen stirred up everyone's emotions again. In fact, when I was young, the connection with the place of my soul's return was not as close as that. Over time, this connection became stronger and stronger. Agriphen once again revealed his own secret, and everyone listened in confusion. What is the relationship between this and further hope? But Alanburu's heart tightened, with a faint sense of foreboding. What do you mean? Jamonri opened his mouth to asking Agriphen not to be too presumptuous. Don't you understand? As more and more souls enter the place of return, the place of return becomes stronger and the connection with sentient beings becomes closer. Maybe by then, without the special presence of me and Wang, we can communicate where our souls return and further strengthen ourselves. That is to say, a further approach is to invest more souls into the place where they return. Boom! As soon as the words were finished, a powerful momentum erupted, overwhelming everyone present and unable to breathe. The crowd was prostrated on the ground, intimidated by this momentum. Even a genius like Agriphen could not withstand this terrifying force. Alan Blur is angry. Among the crowd present, the most perceptive Agriphen knew that the king's level of life was definitely higher than theirs by more than one level. Perhaps reaching level 5. At this moment, Alan Brew's eyes were cold and he stared straight at the people present. All Alambula people are not allowed to kill each other. If they want to gain power through such means, I will never allow it. A majestic voice rang out, echoing throughout the entire hall, and the momentum that weighed down on everyone increased by another point. No one dares to look up at him, even if the path to immortality is right in front of them. Despite living for a long time, Alanbur's passion never cooled in his heart. He did not allow any of his subjects to kill others for the sake of strength. In the past, Alan Brew had great talent and strategy, but he was very gentle and humble, never getting angry with any of his people. No one can truly feel how terrifying the power of the king is. Until now, feeling the terrifying aura, no one doubts that Alan Brew can kill everyone in just a few breaths. Obey the king's orders. The crawling crowd shouted in unison, afraid to look up. But a few people, with their faces facing the ground, showed a different expression, as if pondering something. For a moment, the atmosphere in the palace fell to freezing point, until Alanburu regained his terrifying aura, and everyone breathed a sigh of relief. Just when everyone dared not say more, afraid of angering Alanburu again, someone took the initiative to step forward. Agriphen, the strongest genius of the younger generation in the kingdom, is a special individual apart from Alanburu. Wang, please calm down. Actually, what I mean is not to let more Alanbur souls enter it. Since our goal is not to acquire more knowledge, but simply to dissipate the free spiritual power of the soul, then the source of the soul does not need to be concerned. Alan Blur looked directly at this young genius, in a sense, kind. He could sense that this young man had a powerful aptitude that surpassed everyone in front of him, which is why he was so special. Amazing talent, yet imaginative ideas. When he said this step, he was already able to deduce what Egliphen would say later. But he didn't stop Agriphen from continuing to speak. What beasts can we kill and sacrifice their souls to the place where their souls return? Let these foolish beasts become the nourishment for our growth. We, the Alanbur people, will become gods above all things. Are there any readers reading? Send a book review. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Slaughtering of Sentient Beings. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. Slaughtering of Sentient Beings. Kill the beasts and make their souls the nourishment for the Aranbur people to become stronger. This sentence made everyone present's eyes hot. It's a bit unbearable to take action against one's own compatriots, but if it were any giant beasts, Alambula's eyes showed admiration. The young man in front of him, with strong qualifications and imaginative ideas, had the courage to speak out his own ideas under his own pressure, which he greatly appreciated. Of course, we cannot completely eradicate a species. We can kill most of them and leave enough to reproduce. We can also choose some species that can be farmed as our food. Agriphen talked confidently, sharing his ideas with everyone and finding a way to make all the Alanblue people divine. For a moment, everyone's attention was focused on this young genius. At this moment, he became the focus of everyone. He analyzed every step of the plan in great detail, even presenting specific solutions. Even Alan Brew believes there is great feasibility in it. While listening, he also nodded frequently. Alan Brew was born with such a childlike heart, with only infinite love for his own people. He is very happy to have such a genius among his own people. Egriphen's idea is very good and has a high possibility of success. being able to enable the Alambulu people to continue on the extraordinary path, leap to higher levels of life, and obtain a longer lifespan. In this way, I don't have to be alone and live alone in history, accompanied by other equally long-lived beings. Alan Bruno is very excited about this matter in his heart. But at the same time, there is also some unease. Is this behavior a bit rushed? Have the Alambulu people achieved the ability to accept such a powerful force? But at this point, Alan Bru's opposition is meaningless. Perhaps he can use force to subdue everyone and make them delay the plan. But it is absolutely impossible to completely extinguish the plan in their hearts. In the dark, they will continue to carry out such plans, even reaching out to other peers under their own heavy pressure. The people of Alambulu today are no longer as simple as they were many years ago. They have more desires and ideas. This is also what Alanburu is truly worried about, fearing that their desires will destroy him under the blessing of a powerful force. Wang, please give orders. The eager cries of the crowd interrupted Alanburu from contemplation. They looked at Alanburu with eager eyes, although they had specific plans. But if we want to execute it, we still need their king's orders. Gather kingdom craftsmen, build altars, organize kingdom warriors, hunt giant beasts. I will communicate the place of soul return, absorb the souls of giant beasts, and become the nourishment for the growth of my Alanbur people. Alambulu stood up and gave orders to the crowd below, exercising the authority of his own king. My king Xingming. Agrafen, Jamonri took the lead in bowing to Alanberry and loudly praised him. When a plan aligns with the interests of everyone, the efficiency of executing the plan will be infinitely improved. Hunting giant beasts gives all Alambulu people a chance to take a step closer and gain a longer lifespan. Such a plan will benefit not only the third-level warriors whose lifespan is about to come to an end, but even the weakest Alanbur people will benefit immensely. Tall altars were built one by one, carved with many sacrificial runes, with a rough style, unique yet wild. All the soldiers in the country were divided into soldier teams and went out to hunt giant beasts. The population of the kingdom has now reached millions. Due to qualifications, not everyone can achieve a leap in their life level. Today's kingdom has nearly 100,000 first-order warriors, thousands of second-order warriors, and over 100 third-order warriors. Compared to the vast number of various giant beasts, the number of these warriors may be a bit scarce. But it should be noted that every warrior has learned countless powerful combat skills from their place of return. With the blessing of various combat memories, the combat power skyrocketed. A first-level warrior can defeat any ordinary giant beast, a second-level warrior can easily slaughter even the most powerful display like a Tyrannosaurus rex, and a third-level warrior, no other giant beast can threaten such an existence. Each warrior team has several warriors who work together to easily slaughter any giant beast. Roar! A Tyrannosaurus monster ran away, bathed in blood, all of which were the blood of its kind. He had already been scared out of his wits and was now running recklessly. Those small yet powerful humans seemed to be going crazy, slaughtering all the giant beasts on a rampage. With his shallow wisdom, he couldn't understand what had happened and could only run desperately. Bang! A stone spear broke through the air and pierced through the neck of the Tyrannosaurus rex. Its immense inertia brought it down, and after struggling a few times, it became silent. A powerful Alanbur warrior rushed from the rear, exuding an aura that confirmed him to be a third-order warrior. It is precisely the third-level warrior who can easily kill the Tyrannosaurus rex monster. Waving his hand, he gave orders to his subordinates behind him. Let's drag it back to worship. My subordinate immediately stepped forward and dragged the Tyrannosaurus rex beast back, with skilled movements and a flowing appearance, as if it had been repeated countless times. In such a scene, it is not unknown how many places are happening at the same time. From the day Alanbru ordered it until now, millions of giant beasts have been killed, and soldiers from all over the country have been slaughtering various beasts day and night, and then sacrificing them. Under the guidance of Alanburu, the souls of these giants were absorbed by the place where their souls returned. With the blessing of millions of giant beast souls, the place of soul return has indeed become stronger and its connection with sentient beings has become increasingly close. Some talented talents with strong qualifications can also vaguely establish connections with the place where their souls return. Genius like Agrafene's connection to the place of his soul is no less than his. After he delegated a portion of the authority, he shared a portion of the task of guiding the soul back. Granting such supreme authority, although kind-hearted, Alanburu is definitely not foolish. The reason for doing this is that he can revoke any authority at any time. In the present era, he is invincible. His only weakness is that he cares too much about his own people. If he were a tyrant, he wouldn't be kidnapped by the expectations of his people. In fact, in the changes of time, the place where the soul returns will eventually develop to this point, just wait quietly for the changes of time. But not everyone has a long lifespan like him, and we cannot let everyone give up the path of moving forward and follow the step by step. The massacre lasted for 10 years, and the giant beasts on the continent gradually became scarce. The blood and flesh of the slain giant beast were distributed to every Alanbur person. Those powerful warriors, the high-level officials of the kingdom, mobilized all their strength. What we do by example is only to enhance the place where our souls return and find further hope. During this period, a large number of newborns were born, and behind this, there seems to be a driving force. Alanbulu understood that this was the will of those high-level officials in the kingdom. When the population increases, those Alanbulu people with poor qualifications have a short lifespan, and after death, they can further enhance their place of return. This is their preparation for the future. This approach, although selfish, is something that no one can say. Alanburu is guiding a group of monster souls into their place of return. He could feel that over the years, the place of soul return has become stronger and stronger, and countless souls of giant beasts have been sucked into it, faintly seeming to usher in a qualitative change. After the souls of these beasts were guided into it. Boom! A powerful spiritual wave emanates, and in the perception of all Alanburu people, a virtual world is filled with countless souls, emitting infinite divine radiance. Even if it's just a gaze, there is endless knowledge surging in. At this moment, all Alanbulu people know that the quality of their soul has changed. At this moment, it is also the first step for the Alanbur civilization to truly move towards higher civilization. In later records, this is also the beginning of the magnificent trend and the origin of the secret history of gods. The oldest king could not bear to live a short life, so he gathered all the strength of the world and offered sacrifices to the common people, creating a state of great emptiness. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Entry Evolution. Virtual Realm. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8 Entry Evolution. Virtual Realm. In the perception of all Alanbulu people, that illusory world is sacred, vast, and powerful. He established connections with everyone. Every exploration makes everyone feel their progress and spiritual growth. Those third-order warriors who have not made progress for a long time now feel their bottleneck is loosening. It seems that we are about to once again achieve a leap in the realm of life. Jamongli wept profusely and murmured incessantly. Success, finally success. The whole country was in celebration, and everyone seemed to see a bright future. On the other hand, a certain creator god in a high-dimensional perspective world is also very excited. Has it finally developed to this point? This entry is finally about to evolve. Zhou Ye is very excited, and in the inference of the end observer, this is the direction of development for this entry. But it's almost there. Although there has indeed been a qualitative change in the place of soul return at this time, it is all caused by a massive amount of souls. To make the entry evolve, there is still a bit of room for improvement, and a small push is needed. The place where the soul returns now, although possessing powerful power, is very bulky. These soul powers are only forcibly brought in. It needs to be constantly replenished, otherwise one day it will be depleted and the strength will decline again. Like a passive source of water, it's only a matter of time before it's consumed. He wants to bring his soul back to life and have the ability to operate on its own, from stagnant water to living water. Step into the world. Zhou Ye manipulated his authority to create the century and came to the deepest part of his soul. The power here has accumulated to a terrifying level, and the immense power has been able to influence the laws of reality to a certain extent. A truly extraordinary civilization is about to be nurtured. But now, it's like a difficult labor, just one line away, unable to break through. How much source material is left? Remaining source material. 200. When the first push for the creation of the soul returning place was made, the source material had already been depleted to only 100. And now the remaining 200 yuan of source material has increased by 100 due to the feedback from the decade-long extinction of the Alanbur civilization. Because they are all ordinary life and have not reached the level of extraordinary life, otherwise the decade-long extinction of the race would not have provided them with only these sources of material. Consume all the source materials and drive the ultimate breakthrough of the soul's return. Zhou Ye chose to use up all the source material just to allow the soul to complete evolution. Enhancement successful. Remaining source material. 0. Dong. An invisible wave spread throughout the world, and the world where the soul returned, which was originally solid and visible, began to become completely illusory. The place where the soul returns completely disappears from everyone's sight, but if perceived, one can actually feel its existence. He is connected to everyone. Entry evolution, obtaining a 4-star entry, please name it. What is this? Alan Brew, who has the most sensitive perception, was the first to react. The place where his soul returned was considered to have completely completed the final qualitative change, which was much faster and smoother than he had imagined. What he didn't know was that without the intervention of a hidden creator in the dark, it would never have been so smooth. At this moment, the Creator God is planning the treasure of the Alanbur civilization. At the deepest point of the soul's return, a glowing book quietly floats in this space. This is the concretization of the origin of the place of soul return, the ultimate authority of the entire place of soul return. Zhou Ye stirred up his own spiritual power and left his own mark on it. At the moment when the imprint was imprinted, Zhou Ye felt the close connection between himself and the place where his soul returned. He has successfully obtained the authority to return his soul. Or, to put it another way, obtaining control over the place where the soul returns. Because in Zhou Ye's perception, there are 3 imprint positions on the authority of the place of soul return, but 2 of them have already been imprinted. One of them is naturally Zhou Ye, while the other is Alan Brew. Every imprint position can give the ultimate command to the place where the soul returns, and it is absolutely unchangeable. For any existence, it is an absolute temptation. Due to his unique nature, Alan Brew already had a certain degree of authority, and the ultimate evolution of the place of return was mostly caused by the souls personally guided in by Alan Brew. At the moment of evolution in the place where the soul returns, it naturally bears the imprint of Alan Brew. Is he truly the son of the times? Zhou Ye sighed, this is the greatest opportunity of this era. Now, there is only one last spot left. Once you have the deepest authority of the place of soul return, you can achieve various extraordinary means through the place of soul return. This is also one of the goals that Zhou Ye has been secretly planning for so many years. Because the current Earth has not yet developed to the level where extraordinary power can be achieved. In his vague memory, it will take a long time for human civilization to truly rise. Flame. Zhou Ye's mind moved. The vast sea of spirit where the soul returns distorts the laws of reality and raises towering flames. Thunderbolt. Hurricane. Under the control of Zhou Ye, relying on the authority of his soul's return, he unleashed extraordinary powers one by one. Have you finally mastered extraordinary power? Zhou Ye is very excited. As a creator god, he has finally mastered extraordinary power today. What extraordinary memories, hazy, make it impossible for him to obtain extraordinary power from them. Nowadays, it is only in the extraordinary world created by oneself that one gains extraordinary power. Just as Zhou Ye was playing hard, a voice interrupted him. It's you. Who the hell are you? Which one did Alan Brew undergo a complete transformation in his soul's place of return? Choose to enter and explore it first. But to my surprise, as soon as I entered, I was immediately drawn to the deepest part of my soul. At this moment, he realized that someone had already entered before him. A familiar figure, deep in the place of his soul's return, unleashes flames, controls lightning, and drives hurricanes. That terrifying power, even his current extraordinary fifth-level realm, cannot be countered. It's him. People who can lead to the formation of soul-returning places. Now that his soul has undergone a qualitative change, is there also his pen behind it? Alan Brew was shocked in his heart and couldn't help but exclaim in surprise. Zhou Ye's figure paused, and at this moment he realized that the situation was not good. He played too much and lowered his perception too low, but surprisingly did not notice anyone approaching. This is not to blame Zhou Ye. Prior to this, he had never mastered extraordinary powers. The perceptions relied on are all brought about by the power of Genesis. That's why we didn't notice the appearance of Alan Brew. But the panic was only momentary, and soon Zhou Ye made a decision. Turning around, he smiled at Alan Brew, his body shining with divine radiance, like a sacred deity. Who am I? It's just a phantom from a distant future. It can be said to be a fellow existence with the Alanbur people. This statement is correct, he did indeed travel back, and it is also true that he is a phantom of the distant future. Moreover, the template of the Alanbur people, in Genesis, is guided by the template of the blue star humans by default, which can also be said to be the Alanbur people. As for the divine radiance on the body, it is simulated by manipulating the place where the soul returns. With a pure and simple temperament like Alan Brew, it is natural to not expect that the special effects on Zhou Ye were deliberately created. Combined with preconceived notions, it is believed from the very beginning that Zhou Ye is not simple, so naturally one will not think more about it. A phantom from a distant future. Alan Brew was horrified in his heart. In countless speculations, he believed that this person was a powerful existence from a long time ago. I didn't expect it to come from the future. The future. What is the future like? Are the people of Alanbulu doing well? Why can you come back from the future? Unable to help but ask a series of questions. Zhou Ye smiled and shook his head. It cannot be said that the cause and effect are too great, but one thing is certain. Alanbur's civilization will not be cut off. Is that so? Alan Blue was somewhat disappointed, but he didn't continue to ask. Zhou Ye revealed his identity as a descendant of the Alan Blue people, which made him instinctively feel very friendly. Moreover, he could vaguely sense that what Zhou Ye said was true. The fact is indeed true, but not entirely. What are you doing when you come back? Alan Brew continued to ask. For the future. When Zhou Ye said this sentence, the divine radiance on his body began to bloom, emitting a dazzling light that illuminated the depths of the entire void. Where the soul returns, there will be the ability to grow independently. The strong light enveloped everything, and in Alan Brew's line of sight, Zhou Ye's figure disappeared under the strong light. A vast and infinite consciousness swept over. Alan Brew felt it, where his soul returned, alive. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. The Golden Age. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. The Golden Age, the place where the soul returns, has come to life. Alan Brew has 1/3 of the ultimate authority. He can sense that the place where the soul returns is slowly absorbing external energy and gradually becoming stronger. This is not like actively sacrificing the soul in the past, but rather the place where the soul returns and can grow independently. The internal spiritual energy is slowly filling up. This means that even if you don't actively sacrifice your soul to it in the future, you don't have to worry about the energy running out. With the volume of his soul returning, the spiritual energy he replenished himself was immensely massive, enough for all Alambula people to absorb and become stronger. Under mutual feedback, the place where the soul returns will only become stronger and stronger, and the inner spiritual energy will never be depleted on that day. Alan Brew realized that a golden age was about to begin. All Alambula people can enter it to gain power. Third order is no longer the limit of ordinary Alamburi people, they will break through fourth, fifth, and even higher levels. The transition of life levels also means an extension of lifespan. Perhaps one day, there will be a life that is equally long, so that he won't be so lonely anymore. Continue to respond to that call. Alan Brew saw a book, emitting a faint divine radiance, floating in the air. Reaching out to touch, a wave of information came through. Is this the core of the place where the soul returns? Reading the information that came from it, Alan Brew knew everything. And I know that there are 3 supreme authorities and 3 ultimate commands. At this moment, he finally understood what the mysterious person had done to bring his soul back to life. He just didn't expect to achieve this step. Alan Brew is well aware of the preciousness of these 3 supreme commands. Once a command is given, the great power of unity among sentient beings will go to great lengths to achieve it. With the strength of the place where the soul returns today, many things can be achieved, even the resurrection of a life. But the mysterious person before had never considered using this ultimate command for the benefit of all beings. What a noble person this is. Alan Brew's admiration arose in his heart, wanting to make friends with such heroic figures. Fill the brain with a kind, selfless, and noble hero. At this moment, Alan Brew became even more convinced of Zhou Ye's claim of Alan Brew's descendant identity. But what surprised him was that he had a supreme authority from the beginning. Is this also his pen? Naturally, Alan Brew attributed this opportunity to Zhou Ye. However, he couldn't think of how to use the Tao command for his ultimate command at the moment. Let's put it aside for now before considering it. Alan Brew decided to put it aside for now and consider it later. However, there is still one final permission left, and we need to find a way to hide it first. Alan Brew knew the power of this authority, and if it were obtained by some unscrupulous individuals, it would be a big trouble. With a moment's thought, the book symbolizing the core of the soul's return was sealed. Without his permission, no one could approach, let alone obtain it. Perhaps one day, he will be able to meet someone he absolutely trusts and hand over this final authority. Alambula Palace. Alan Brew opened his eyes and retreated from where his soul had returned. He did not enter the place of spiritual return with his true body, but rather through spiritual communication. The place where the soul returns has no substance, but a world composed of spiritual power. The mysterious person before also entered the spiritual body. At this time, a large number of people had already gathered outside the palace, hoping to obtain more information. Although they already know that their plan has been successful and the path to continue has been opened up, what they have learned is definitely not Alan Bruto. Sensing the anxiously waiting crowd outside the palace, Alan Brew ordered them to enter. At the forefront is Agriphen, the strongest genius in the kingdom. After 10 years of growth, his strength has surpassed that of Jumonri back then. At this moment, Jumonri followed after Agriphen. The status and strength of both have undergone changes over the past decade. They bowed respectfully and praised their great king. Later, he asked his own question. Alan Brew answered everyone one by one. The place where the soul returns has undergone a complete qualitative transformation, hidden in the void. In the future, it will no longer only attract the souls of the Alanbur people, but all living souls in the world will be attracted to it. The plan to hunt and kill the giant beast can be stopped. Upon hearing this, everyone began to rejoice. Then, Alambulu said again. Since the place of soul return is hidden in the void, and the souls received are not limited to the Alanbur people, it is no longer appropriate to call it the place of soul return. Perhaps it can be called the virtual realm. Obey the king's orders. No one objected, everyone accepted this suggestion. Although the place of soul return is the primitive belief of the Alanbur people, these high-level officials of the kingdom are more concerned with their own interests. As for the wishes of ordinary Alanburi people, as long as guided in the dark and washed away by time, everyone will forget. The Golden Age has opened. Warriors who were originally trapped in the third level and unable to advance, such as Jumanri, began to break through the fourth level with the help of the virtual realm. Extend lifespan and become young again. Stronger power, longer lifespan, all of which fascinate the high-level officials of these kingdoms. 10 years, decades. It seems that the Third Order is a watershed, and crossing this watershed extends the lifespan far beyond the previous order. Under the intentional guidance of the high-level officials of these kingdoms, the new population began to surge. Breaking through millions, tens of millions, nearly billions. In decades, the population has doubled. The implication behind this is only well known to those high-level individuals who understand the secrets of the virtual realm. The stronger the virtual realm, the more benefits they can gain from it. In this regard, even Alan Brew cannot say anything. Perhaps human nature is greed, but what kind of result will this greed bring? In the palace, Alanbulu let out a faint sigh. But besides that, there is something that makes Alan Brew happy. While everyone was addicted to absorbing the power of the void to strengthen themselves, the strongest genius in this kingdom had already begun to study using the power of the void to apply to reality. Soul cultivation technique. This is the result of Egrafen's research, which aims to use this technique to nourish the soul of newborns before they are born. If both parents are high-level life levels. Some newborns are born with a first-order extraordinary level. Inspired by Griffin, each genius began to develop their own techniques. Fireball technique. Illumination technique. Gale technique. Lightning technique. Techniques have been developed one by one, and today's combat methods rarely have such punches-to-flesh collisions. But rather a series of martial arts, powerful, elegant, and dangerous. The era of warriors has come to an end, and they begin to call themselves sorcerers. From then on, the Golden Age has begun. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Crosser entry. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The source has no content or has errors.